All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's go ahead and go through this chapter test for you. This is the practice. Remember, the real test should be very similar. So problem number 1, describe the transformation of f of x is equal to x squared, represented by g of x is equal to 3 minus, x minus 3 squared plus 4. Then select the correct graph of the function. So remember, again, this is x minus h plus k. So in this case here, our h is equal to 3, all right? Or an easy way to think of it, if you go minus 3, all right, minus 3 would be left. So just think you're going in the opposite direction here, and then this one here on the k, you're going in the same direction, all right? So the graph of the translation would be 3 units. And again, you're going to go opposite. Minus 3 would go left, so you would go right. And then you would go 4. That one stays the same, so plus would mean we would be going up. Okay, again on this here, make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you look at which one is your F and which one is your G. All right? So remember, here's our F. We just said we were going 3 units to the right and 4 units up. So that would be the only one that works that way. So your answer has to be that one there. Okay, problem 2, select the correct graph of f of x is equal to x squared and g of x is equal to negative x plus 3 squared plus 2. So again, the same thing. If we have a negative on the outside of the parentheses there, that means we're going to have a reflection over x. All right. And remember, I just told you this one here would be 3 left. And this one here would be up 2. All right. So if we look at that, again, so here you can automatically get rid of this one here because one of them's not a reflection. Remember, the reflection over the x is going to turn it this way. All right, so that one doesn't work. If we look at the other two, you should see again our f's are all at the same place. Remember, we wanted to go 1, 2, 3 to the left and 2 up. And there's our vertex where it's supposed to be. So it has to be that one right there. Okay? Let the graph of G be a vertical shrink by a factor of 1/5, followed by a translation 8 units down of the graph, f of x is equal to x squared, write a rule for G. So remember, when it says a vertical shrink, anything with the vertical, we know that's going to be on the outside. So we know that we could say g of x is equal to 1/5. Our original function was x squared. And then it says followed by 8 units down. Well, 8 units down is your k value. Remember that? So that means we would go minus 8. And that should be your answer for that one. Number 4, let the graph of G be a horizontal shrink by a factor of 1/6 and a reflection in the x-axis, followed by translation 2 units down of the graph of f of x is equal to x squared. Write a rule for G. So in this case here, remember I told you whenever we see the word horizontal, you're going to flip that factor. That factor is 1/6. So we know that we are going to flip it and we are going to say it is 6. And you're going to attach it to the x. So remember, when I'm saying that, when I attach it to the x, we're going to say that we have 6. It's attached to the x. And remember, the x was squared, so the 6x squared. And just keep it like that. because that will be the answer. I'll tell you that much right now. Remember, a reflection in the x-axis makes it go outside, right? And then we have 2 units down. That's negative. So there's our function right there. So we could just say g of x. Okay. All right, number 5. Let the graph of g be a translation 2 units down, followed by a vertical stretch by a factor of 9 and a reflection in the x-axis of the graph of f of x is equal to x squared plus 7x. Write a rule for g. All right, so on this one here, again, I kind of went ahead and used the rule that the book likes to use. They like to use h of x. Sorry about that. All right, so they like h of x is equal to, and again, 2 units down, that means it's going to be on the outside. All right, so if that's the case, it's on the outside, excuse me, that's minus 2. All right, so then remember our f of x was x squared plus 7x minus 2. Then our g of x, they're telling us the followed by, so notice how I'm going in order. It says by a factor of 9, so I'm going to take my a times the h of x, and so it says followed by a vertical stretch of by a factor of 9, and that there's the keyword in, because they're doing that together, a reflection in the x-axis. So remember, in the x-axis, it puts the negative on the outside. All right, so if we look at that, then we can write this as negative 9. Then we have x squared plus 7x minus 2. And if I distribute that negative 9 through the parentheses like I'm supposed to, I'll get negative 9x squared minus 63x. And then negative 9 times a negative 2 is plus 18. So that's your answer for that one. Number 6, plot the points of the graph of f of x is equal to 1/4 x plus 6 squared minus 5. That corresponds to the values of x is equal to negative 2 and x is equal to negative 4. Then plot the vertex and the reflections of these points in the axis of symmetry. So remember, our vertex is going to be the opposite of this. So the opposite of plus 6 is negative 6. All right, and remember it's going to be the same of this one here. So our vertex will be at negative 6 and negative 5. So if we go there, we're going to see negative 6 and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5, and that's our vertex. And you can't write this down, they just want you to plot the point there. Okay, and remember, our axis of symmetry is the h there, right? So when it's x is equal to h, so again, you can't do this on the test, but you can write it on your piece of paper. So our axis of symmetry is going to go through the vertex. And again, remember I told you that would be x is equal to negative 6. Okay, now what they wanted you to do next was they wanted you to find the f, so the y values for the values of negative 2 and 4. So remember, what that means is we're going to take our function, and remember, I'm going to put f of x is equal to negative 4. I just chose to do that one first. And if we look at that, remember wherever I see x, I'm replacing it with -4. So again, that'll give me 1/4 times 2 squared minus 5. 2 squared is 4. 1/4 of 4 is 1. So 1 minus 5, which will give us -4. So one of my points then would be -4 and -4. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to make a point there. Now remember, what they are asking you to do is to plot these points and then the points in the axis of symmetry. So remember, when I go back to the axis of symmetry from this point, it's going to take me to get there. I'm going to go to the other direction, and I'm going to plot my point there. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Then I'm going to go and do the same thing. So I'm going to take f of -2. And f of -2 I'm going to take, and I'm going to take 1/4. Again, I'm going to take -2 plus 6 squared minus 5, which will be 1/4 of 4 squared minus 5, which is 1/4 of 16. 1/4 of 16 is 4. 4 minus 5, that will give us -1. So what that is saying, I'm going to go, when I go 2 in the -2 direction, I'm going to go down 1. So there's that one right there.
Did you already get yours?
I did. Yeah. All right. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the axis of symmetry. That means I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the other side, and I'm going to make my point there. Okay, and I'm done with that. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry if people come in here. I don't want to just stop it because A, I can't see how to stop it and pause it, and B, I just want to get this done for you. So we'll have to put up with the people who are here. All right, so make all those points. That's your answer on that one. Okay, number 7, find the maximum or minimum value. Find the minimum or maximum value of f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 16x plus 30. So remember, this one here is in standard form. So remember, that is ax squared plus bx plus c. So remember, our vertex, our axis of symmetry, or our x-coordinate of our vertex, which would be our h, remember that's going to be x is equal to -b over 2a. And when I do that, remember I take the sign, so I have the negative there. B has a -16, so I have -16 there, all right, over 2 times 2. And if we look at that, that will equal, well, 16, because a negative times a negative is positive, so I'll get 16 divided by 4, excuse me, which will equal 4. So remember, then we are going to take our f of 4, so we can get our y value. And if I do that, I'm going to get 2. I'm going to get 4 squared minus 16 times 4 plus 30. Okay, So let's see, 4 squared is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 16 times 4 is 64. So I'm going to have minus 64 plus 30. Then I can go from left to right, since addition and subtraction we do in left to right. So 32 minus 64 is minus 32 plus 30. And that will give us a negative 2. Remember, it's our y value, our f of x value, which gives us the maximum or minimum value. Remember, if it's negative 2, that would make it is less than 0. And since it is less than 0, you know it has to be a minimum. All right. So right here, we would say the minimum value is negative 2. Okay. Let's see, number 8. Identify the X-Intercepts, vertex, and axis of symmetry of the graph of f of x is equal to negative 0.25 or negative 1/4, x plus 2 and x plus 8. So remember, this one here is in the X-Intercept form. So if we remember on that, we're going to write this as negative 0.25. Remember, that would be x minus p, and then it would be x minus q. So if that's the case here, then remember that the p has to equal, because a negative times a negative becomes a positive, so p has to equal negative 2, and q has to equal negative 8. So our x-intercepts are negative 2 and negative 8. Remember, to find the vertex, we're going to take, to find our h, or our axis of symmetry, we're going to take our p plus q, and we're going to divide it by 2. All right? So if we do that, we are going to get negative 2 plus a negative 8 divided by 2, and that will give us negative 10 divided by 2, which is negative 5. And then we're going to find our f of negative 5. So if we plug that in, we'll get negative 0.25 times negative 5 plus 2, negative 5 plus 8, which will give us negative 0.25 times negative 3 times positive 3. You plug that into your calculator, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll get 2.25. All right, so our vertex then is at negative 5 and negative 2.25. Remember, I just told you that the axis of symmetry is the x value, so we know that that answer there has to be negative 5. Okay. Number 9, identify the focus and directrix and axis of symmetry of 9x is equal to y squared. So remember, you have to solve it for either the x or the y, the one variable that does not have a square to it. So on this one here, we're going to say that x is equal to 1/9 y squared. So remember, what that is telling us, this here, if we recall, our formula was x is equal to 1 over 4p y squared. So if that's the case, then what we're telling me is that 1 over 4p is equal to 1 over 9. And so this, like one of the first problems I did for you on section 2.3, remember we can take the cross products So if we do that and we do that, we'll get that 4p, because 4p times 1 is just 4p, and 9 times 1 is 9. And then we'll get that p is equal to 9/4. All right, so remember, that is our x value. So on our focus, remember our focus when it's x equals, look at your notes just to make sure, but remember that's going to be p and 0. So it's p and 0. So in this case here, it's 9/4, and it's 0. Now, I'm not sure if you used the decimal there, if they're going to give it to you. I noticed that when I did the problem and I checked the answer, they left it as 9/4. Okay, remember that the directrix is going to be x equals in this case, because we have x equals. And remember, the directrix is the opposite of p. So our p in this case was 9/4. So we know that our x is going to be equal to negative 9/4 for the directrix. And remember, if you looked on the homework that I gave you on this one here, the axis of symmetry in this case is y is equal to 0. And that was actually in your notes too, all right? Because remember, when there's no other stuff added to it at the vertex, it's just going to be either y equals 0 or x equals 0. All right. So on number 10 here, write an equation of the parabola shown. So if we look at this one right here, sometimes they'll give us the focus, sometimes they'll give us the directrix. On this one right here, they gave us the directrix. Remember, the directrix is x, because it's a vertical line, is equal to -2. Remember, from just the previous problem, we said that x is equal to -p for the directrix. So we know that p is equal to 2. If p is equal to 2, then we know that x is equal to 1 over 4 times p. You just said our p was 2, y squared, and we have to write it as x is equal to 1/8 y squared. Really important, ladies and gentlemen, if you just put the answer as y is equal, if you just put the answer as 1/8 y squared, it's going to make it wrong, because it does say here an equation of the parabola. Remember, equation means equals. So if they didn't give you an equal sign, you'd better put an equal sign in there. So on this one right here, you'll be able to tell me that x is equal to 1/8 times y squared. That is your answer. Just don't put 1/8 y squared. All right, number 11 is, again, we have a vertex. Remember, our vertex here is -3 and 0. Now this time it's not at the origin, so remember, we have to remember a couple of things. But this is our h and this is our k. All right? So remember, again, for some reason we got stuck with both of them as a directrix. Remember, you're going to be looking at your notes, ladies and gentlemen. Look at all the formulas that I gave you. I gave you the pictures, etc., etc. Maybe that'll help you. In this case, our directrix is k minus p. All right? So our k is a 0, and we have 0 minus 2. So again, our p has to equal 2. Okay? If that's the case, and again, now this one is opening up or down. Remember, if it's opening up or down, your equation is different. On this one, our equation is going to be y is equal to 1 over 4p. In this case, it's going to be x minus h squared plus k. You just told me that our p-value is 2. So you're going to tell me it's 1 over 4 times 2. Our h was 3, and our k was a 0. So I don't have to put plus a 0 because it's just going to go away anyways. So our equation in this case should be y is equal to 1 over 8. Put it in parentheses, x minus 3 squared. And that's our answer. That goes right there. All right. Now this one looks nasty, but it's really not that bad, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it's a sideways parabola. So remember on this one here, our focus here is again h plus p and k. That's our focus. All right. Our vertex is h and k. So our vertex is -1 and 2. Okay. So remember, I'm going to put our focus out here now. So remember, our h I just said was -1 plus p. That's going to be this answer right here, which is equal to -5/4. So now remember, I'm going to have to get p by itself. So if you want to think about it, this is going to be 4 over 4, because 4 over 4 is 1. So I'm going to add that to both sides of the equation if you want to think about it that way. So then we'll get that our p is equal to -1/4. So remember on this one here, since it's a sideways one, remember if it's the sideways, it's x equals. If it goes up or down, it's y equals. And then look at your notes from there. That should help you. Or like I said, if it looks exactly like this on your test, and everybody's test is different. Remember, I told you that's going to be the thing this time. On this one here, we can write this as x is equal to 1 over 4p. And I'm just writing down our formula right now. Y minus k squared plus h. Remember, on the notes, I told you when it says x equals, the h and the k get switched. So in this case here, I got 1 over 4 times -1/4. Well, that's going to be a nice one for us. Y minus our k was 2 squared, and our h was -1, so plus a -1 is just -1. What we should notice is that 4 times 1/4 is going to be -1, so we know that that's just going to become a negative, and then we're going to have y minus 2 squared minus 1, and again that's our x equals, and that's what goes there. So kind of looked nasty, but it wasn't really that bad. Okay, so on this one here, write an equation of the parabola that passes through the point 3 and -30 and has x-intercepts -2 and 18. So remember, the minute they tell us that it has 2 x-intercepts, we're going to use the X-Intercept form, which is y is equal to a times x minus p times x minus q. Okay? So once they do that, all right, we're going to just fill in our stuff. So I'll say y is equal to a times, remember, this one here is negative, so x minus a -2 would be x plus 2. All right. And then this one here will be x minus 18. All right. So now to solve for our a, we have to use our point. So our point is x and y. So I'm going to say negative 30 is equal to a. Our x is 3 plus 2 and 3 minus 18. So if we work that out, let's see, I'll get negative, so 5 times a negative 15 is negative 75a is equal to negative 30. So we'll take a is equal to negative 30 divided by negative 75, which will give us 0.4. All right, so our equation then will be y equals, well, this time they already put the y equals, so you don't have to put it in again. That would be redundant and it'd probably mark you wrong. So on this one right here, you would put y is equal to negative 0.4, excuse me, not 0.0. Okay, and you will say x plus 2 and x minus 18. Okay, what was nice on this one here is, remember, the average rate of change so they're asking us to go from negative 2 to positive 8. So remember, we can write that as f of 8 minus f of 2 over 8 minus a negative 2. Sorry, that's a negative there. Right? So f of 8 minus f of negative 2 over 8 minus a negative 2. So somewhere off to the side, you should have said f of 8. And you're plugging that in. And if I work that one out, 8 plus 2 is 10. 8 minus 18 is negative 10. So 0.4 times 8 times 10 minus times a negative 10 is negative 40. Okay, that's f of 8. F of negative 2 is, again, 0.4. I'll have negative 2 plus 2. Well, right there, that should tell us something. Negative 2 minus 18. So this one right here, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Multiplying anything by 0 gives us 0. So our average rate of change then, all right, so I'm going to use this here, and I'll change it to a different color. So we can say it's f of 8, which is negative 40, minus f of negative 2, which is 0, over 8 minus a negative 2. Well, that would make it a positive 10. So if we work that out, ladies and gentlemen, we get negative 4. So our average rate of change is negative 4. Okay. All right. I put on your comments on the test, and I mean on the practice test, and I'm going to tell you the same thing here. All right. Don't worry about the distance formula. Okay. Use the formula you know. which is for a parabola. So in this case, we're going to use y is equal to 1 over 4p x squared. Remember, on this case here, our focus is 0 and p. So p is equal to 4, right? Again, if you just wanted to see it as the directrix, it would be y is equal to negative p. Again, notice that p is equal to 4. So either one tells you that. So we can say that y is equal to 1 over 4 times 4 x squared, or our answer will be y is equal to 1 over 16x squared. Okay? So, same thing on the test. If you're following exactly what I told you to do, ladies and gentlemen, this should make sense. Okay? Number 15, a football player kicks a football downfield. The height of the football increases until it reaches a maximum height of 15 yards, 30 yards away from the player. A second kick is modeled by the function f of x is equal to negative 32 thousandths, or 0.032 x times x minus 50, where f is the height in yards and x is the horizontal distance in yards. Compare the distances that the footballs travel before hitting the ground. So let's kind of just look at what they said. So I'm going to show you the first one. So on the first one, they said, and I want you to think about it in an XY plane. All right. But now the football player is right there. So they're saying that he kicks a football and it reaches a maximum height of 15 yards. All right. And then it is going to go and hit the ground. So right there is our vertex, and our vertex here is our x is 30 because it says 30 yards, and then that would be our height is 15. So if you think about it on this one here, this is our axis of symmetry, and remember the x values are equidistant from the axis of symmetry. So this one here would be 30 yards. That would make this one here also be 30 yards. All right. So on this one here, our total distance is 60 yards. Okay. On the second one, we don't really need to do a picture because remember on this one here, well, we still can. We'll have 0.032. Remember, the first one is x. If it doesn't have a number attached to it, it's x minus 0. Again, that's our starting point. And then we have x minus 50. So okay, I'll make a graph here for you real quick. So remember, at one of them, our x is at 0. Our other x-intercept is at 50. So we know somewhere along the line, and it didn't ask us what it is, what his height is on that one, because they just want us to know which one travels farther. Well, this one went 50 yards. The first one went 60 yards. So the first kick, and it's a pull down menu, so you know it's probably going to say first or second. The first kick travels farther before hitting the ground. The kick travels, how much farther did it go? Well, 60 minus 50, it went 10 yards farther. It's a cramp. Okay, well, I'm almost done here, people. So, I guess it's time to mix up some colors here for you. All right, look at this one right here. When I'm looking at this equation of the parabola, what does it give us? It gives us the vertex, and it gives us a point on the parabola. So remember, if it gives us the vertex and 1 point, you're going to use the vertex form. when I use the vertex form, I'm going to say y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. All right, this is our h, this is our k. So in this case here, remember it's x minus h. Our h is negative 5, so negative negative is a positive. So we're going to have a, hopefully I'll get this done before my pencil runs out. I don't know if you saw that it said it was 5%. So I'll have a, and then I'll have x plus 5, quantity squared, and our k is plus 1.5. All right, and that's for our y. Now we're going to take this point and plug it in. So on that one there, we have 4, because remember, we need to find our a value here. 4 is equal to a times 0 plus 5 squared plus 1.5. Okay. We will get, let's see, 5 squared is 25. Well, first I'm going to subtract 1.5, because again, I need to get the a by itself. So 0 plus 5 is 5 squared. 5 squared is 25, so on this side I'll have 25a. On this side you'll have 2.5, because that's what 4 minus 1.5 is. So to get a by itself, I'm going to take the 2.5 and divide it by 25, and that will give me 1/10, or 0.01. So our equation for this one would be 0.1 x plus 5 squared plus 1.5. Notice again, I didn't put the y equals because it's already there. Okay, let's see. A shopping mall manager creates a parabola to predict the number of shoppers in a mall where X is the number of hours since 8 a.m. and Y is the number of shoppers in the mall. Write a function that models the number of shoppers in the mall over time, then find the average rate of change in the number of shoppers over the interval in which the number of shoppers is increasing. So again, they're only making us do one. Remember, on the homework, we had to do 2 of them, and on the notes, I did 2 of them. So then they want you to round your answer to the nearest whole number. Again, I can't stress enough, ladies and gentlemen, if it tells you to round to the nearest something, if you told me it was 8.5, then it won't work, all right? So it would mark it wrong. When they say to do it to the nearest whole number, you would have said 9, because that 8.5 rounds up to 9. Okay, so let's see. What do we know here? Oh, we have an X-intercept there. We have an X-intercept there, right? On this one here, I did all my work down here for you, all right? So let's see here. What do we know? And we have a point not on that is on the parabola. So we have 3 points here. So remember, on that one there, since I have 2 intercepts, I'm going to use the intercept form, which is y is equal to a times x minus 0. If you notice on the previous question, they just left it as x, but I'll still go ahead and put that there for you just to make sure you see it. And then I'll have x minus 12. All right. So we know that our point is 4 and 344. So y is equal to 344. Again, we have to solve for our a, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to say 344 is equal to a times, well, 4 minus 0 times 4 minus 12. our A is equal to 4 times negative 8. And that would be 344. So this one right here will give us negative 32A. Remember, I can flip is equal to 344. So our A is going to be 344 divided by negative 32, which will give us negative 10.75. Okay? So remember, on our vertex here, and let's just make sure it's right, our vertex, our axis of symmetry would be our x is equal to, again, our p plus q, so 0 plus 12 divided by 2, and that would equal 6. So if we go up here, we should see, and it does look like that's where it is, ladies and gentlemen. It does look like that's where it's changing our position. All right, so that is our our x value. So our x is equal to 6. And remember then to find our y value, we're going to take f of 6. So I'll have negative 10.75 times 6 minus 0, which is 6. And then I'll have 6 minus 12, which is negative 6. And if I multiply that out, ladies and gentlemen, I'll get 387. Okay? So now, remember, our average rate of change, again, is the slope, and they told us where it's increasing. So remember, here it's increasing, here it's decreasing. So we need to find the slope of this line. And that's what the average rate of change is, right? So we're going to say that our average rate of change, remember I called it ROC because I got tired of writing it, is f of 6 minus f of 0 over 6 minus 0. So again, it's just the slope, ladies and gentlemen. So if we work that out, our f of 6, you just told me, was 387. Our f of 0 is 0, right? Because you can tell it's 0, 0. And then it'll be over 6 minus 0. So it looks like it's just 387 divided by 6, which is 64.5. And the best way to think about it, ladies and gentlemen, is you cannot have half a person, right? So if we rounded it, we would get approximately 65. So let's go back up here. What am I supposed to write? So our f of x is equal to negative 10.75. Now I'm not sure if it did mark you wrong if you put x minus 0. So if it did, I would just go ahead, if it's at the origin 0, 0, just leave it as x times x minus 12. And we just found out that the average rate of change as it is increasing is about 65 shoppers per hour. All right, on this one right here, let me see. I'm going to have to figure out, let me see, where did I put my, let's see here. I think that's what I need. Remember, I'm going to do my Desmos. So I meant to have this already up, but I didn't. So remember, you can get this through. Well, it's going to be off to the side on yours. All right. So let's go ahead and do what I have here. So I'm going to, remember I have to go to the plus sign because I'm going to make a table here. So when I go to the table, I'll get 15, 24, 31, 39, 42, 57, and 61. On this one here, I'll get 130, 500, 600, 700, 680, 350, and 210. They match up. So remember, if you want to see it, because we can't see it, well, if you look at all our y values there, we have a lot there, right? So remember, you can go to this little zoom fit here. If I click on it, oh, there it is. And it does look like a parabola shape. So remember, on this one here, we're going to put, and I'll write this down for you. We are going to put y. Remember, it's in standard form, so I have to put y sub 1. And remember, when you're on the calculator, all right, you're going to find the tilde. If you're using your computer, it's right below the escape, and you have to use the approximate. Okay? And remember, standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So I'm going to say a of x sub 1 plus b of x sub 1 plus c. I don't know, you guys, it looks like I have a straight line. I did a mistake. Does anybody know where it is? I do. So it should be x sub 1, right? And that should be squared. So let's see here. Can I see my, let's see if I can do it this way. I have stuff from Screencastify in my way there. So let's see if I can do this. Let's see if it'll let me do that. And yep, it did. There. Now it looks right. So remember, the key here, all right, is to see what your A is, what your B is, and what your C is. Now remember, the key here, they said to do it to the nearest hundredth. So if we think about that, and I'm going to stop sharing that because I had written it down. So look at that, and if you've already done it, you should be able to see it on yours. So again, if I, let's see. All right, we should be good there. And it's going to say to the nearest hundredth. Remember, the nearest hundredth is, I have 0.00. That's the tenths right there. And that's your hundredths. And the next one would be thousands. When you get to pre-calc, a lot of you will get to pre-calc. We'll see that we'll do it to 4 decimal places. So I'm going to say hundredths. So if we remember on that, what you should have gotten is A is equal to negative 0.98. Round correctly, right? B, you should have 75.83. And C, you should have negative 780.68. So again, they told us the equation is y equals. They've already told us y equals, so all we need to do is put in negative 0.98 x squared plus 75.83x minus 780.68. Okay, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I know it took a little while for me to do it for you, but again, I went step by step. Remember, tomorrow, one of my suggestions was you look at this. If you're not sure about a problem, watch that part of the video. You don't have to watch the whole thing, but maybe that'll help you. All right? Good luck tomorrow, and I'll definitely say hello. Remember, your birthday present to me is everybody passing this test. See ya.